All right, now we will talk about people pleasing. Men often find a woman who has passionate interests and activities of her own to be more exciting. They don't have to be things he's interested in necessarily, just as long as she has interests of her own. The same goes for men. We want men who have their own interests. Guys, don't just sit around at home. Ladies, have your own interests going on. Do not build your life around another person. Do not be boring. Um, Find things that interest you that have nothing to do with your partner or the person that you're into. Then she gives us a really fun story of this gentleman, Rob, this attractive, successful man who could have any woman he wanted. And he liked Laura, this conservative computer nerd who wore long pleated skirts. And they had been dating for a few times, and he invited her to go on a cruise. He thought he would rock her world, but Laura said she couldn't go because she had a pre-planned Tupperware party. Now, obviously, this book was written when, like, in the 90s or something, but nonetheless, Rob thought, he was hoping she'd change her mind. He went on the cruise by himself and flew home after one day to see what she was up to. A Tupperware party? How could she pass on an exotic vacation with him, this man that so many women wanted, for a Tupperware party? Certainly she was seeing some other man. He left the cruise after one day. I do not know how they can do that because you're out on the ocean. But anyway, to see for himself. So he flew home and dropped by on Saturday evening when Laura was having her Tupperware party. And lo and behold, there she was having a Tupperware party. She was happy to see him. She invited him in, offered him a finger sandwich. Now, Rob could just as easily have been eating spiny lobster or exotic seafood en route to the Bahamas at that very moment with almost any woman he wanted. Instead, he was nibbling on a soggy little tuna sandwich with a toothpick in it. He still remembers with disbelief. There I am listening to a bunch of cackling women, watching them go AWOL over some plastic bowls. I drank coffee in a fancy teacup with a teeny tiny spoon. I could not believe it. I was thinking, no, this cannot be so. I don't hold a candle to this. Was Laura being mean? Not at all. She just didn't go down the beaten path of giving up her own interest in exchange for something he thought would be better. What blew Rob's mind was that her activity meant more to her than the cruise or being with him. He said, from that point on, she had my full attention. Rob had put on his best Mac Daddy show-stopping routine, and Laura wasn't that impressed. Unlike the bitchier woman, the nice girl will often appear easily impressed. She'll make her desire to have a relationship much too obvious, which often invites mistreatment. If you want to renew the challenge, it is imperative to continue the activities you did before he came on the scene. It really throws men off if the activity appears to be something mundane like the Tupperware party, but anything along the lines of knitting, gardening, or pottery will do the trick. No matter what you choose, as long as you're passionate about something other than him, it will draw him back in. Guaranteed. He will be asking himself the same question he asked himself in the first weeks of dating you. How could she want to do that when she could be with me? When you will not drop everything to be with him, you'll appear as though you have more going for you. This will remind him of your worth, and invariably he will begin to come your way. So, let's continue. Also, it's important that I guess this chapter isn't just about people pleasing, it's also about renewing the mental challenge. Number one is, instead of asking him to focus on you, you focus on you. Number two is to alter your routine, is to not to be predictable, is to not being there at times is what makes him come around. Men don't respond to words, they respond to no contact. So if you're just always around whenever he calls, alter your routine so you're not always around, that you actually have something going on. Have a life outside of your relationship. Never stop living your life. Take a class, develop a hobby, meet new people. You're only as interesting as the depths of your own interest. The mere fact that you're content with your life keeps you interesting. You're happy with or without him, and this keeps you just outside of his reach. Now, let's go back into the people pleasing, because that's really what I got most out of this chapter is do not reward bad behavior. Women often make the mistake of going down the beaten path of catering to a man even when feeling for granted. Perfect example is a woman named Lori who recently called my radio show. She's a single mom who doesn't have a lot of money. She ran around for 2 entire days looking for a special heart-shaped pan in order to bake her boyfriend a cake for Valentine's Day. Trivia question, do you think a guy is going to care if the cake is shaped like a heart? You probably would have preferred a cake in the shape of a wrench or a remote control. Don't try to be the happy helper. He won't value your efforts when you automatically assume the role of a servant. If, however, you are reciprocating for kindness that he has been consistently expending to you, he'll think of everything you give as a special treat. He simply won't respect a woman who automatically goes into overdrive to please him. Also, when it comes to dates, if he doesn't give you a time, you don't have a date. Do not sit around waiting on dates. There's more here in this chapter. Here are a few more suggestions on altering the routine, but it's more about people pleasing. If you always call the office to find out when he's coming home, from time to time, don't be home when he gets in. Don't tell him your whereabouts every moment of the day. If he calls on your cell phone, don't always rush to pick it up. If he calls on the phone, don't go out of your way to answer. Let him leave a message. If you live together, leave and go and have some fun. Stay out a couple hours longer than expected. If he always expects you home at a certain time, come home a little later. So, also, regain your sense of humor. This is like, I'm not so good at bantering, but you have to let a guy know in a fun, playful way that your security doesn't depend on him. For example, a girlfriend of mine went on a couple of days with a guy who criticized the color of her nail polish. She said, the suggestion department is closed for the evening, but fax your idea tomorrow and we'll file it right there in the suggestion box. And she pointed to the kitchen trash. The two are still together and he's absolutely crazy about her. To this day, she wears the same nail polish color. Here are some other examples of people who could diffuse something with a joke. This is something I wish I was better at, but I'm not. So Tom Hanks was in an interview with Barbara Walters. Barbara Walters said something like this, I don't mean to hurt your feelings, Tom, but you aren't considered a sex symbol. And he said, yeah, but I embrace that, and I think that makes me kind of sexy. Another one was Ronald Reagan. When he ran for president, he was asked in a debate about the detriment of being the oldest candidate to ever run for the highest office. And he said, I refuse to exploit for my political gain the youth and inexperience of my opponent. So those are some, and I think guys are really good at that. I'm not that good at that, but I'm trying. Or in a relationship with a man, whenever you want to keep him on his toes, banter with him. If he says something a little out of line, just say, we'll let that one slide. Or, why do I put up with this? So, or this one woman named Darla dated a man who made a mess every time he came over, and they also had a good sex life. So he was making pass at Darla, and she kind of snubbed him, and she went over to the sink and started doing all the dishes. And then she said, the more time I spend doing dishes, the less time we can spend doing the deed. So then he started pitching in with the dishes. You can get away with saying much more with humor than you can with a straight face. Okay, so that is it for this. I really, really think that, when it comes to the people pleasing, like for me personally, I think that it came from, a lot of us were raised to be people pleasers because, frankly, we were not allowed to disagree with the teachers at school, with the pastors at church, with our employers, with our parents. A lot of us weren't even asked our opinions, especially in school. It's like, this is what you have to learn, so we don't have practice with that. Also, we may have seen our parents model a certain way of interacting. And then also, if we have empathy, we know that if we tell someone no, we could hurt their feelings. So it really is just like using a new muscle and trying it out. And you don't even have to hurt someone's feelings. You can just like not reply if someone is rude, or, be like, just let them know that that wasn't appropriate. So, it's just having the courage to try something different, because if the pattern was always like, the way I get friends is to do whatever they want, the way I get a man is to do what he wants, the way I get a woman is to do what she wants, well, try something different, because you will attract a higher quality person. And a high quality person is going to lose interest in you if you're too agreeable and you don't have good boundaries. You will, what I have noticed is when I'm like, more like, hey, these are my standards, in a respectful way, it actually, people respect me more. They like me actually better. So I encourage you to try that out. May not work with the people in your life now because they like you being a people pleaser. But maybe they'll like you more if you're not. So this is just an invitation to try out. And the problem with being a people pleaser is people don't even know what they want. And I think a lot of women don't even know what they want in bed because we're so programmed to like what the guy likes, just from watching porn, or just from like those of us who grew up, like when we're my age, I'm 62, like we grew up at a time when women were supposed to like let the man take the lead. Even in religious couples, the man takes the lead, the man should set the lead. But to always be like, well, what do I want? What do I want? And a lot of people, I think, don't even really know what they want. Also, I think that if we had experiences, maybe when we were younger in other relationships, if I tell you what I like or what my boundaries are, you can't handle it, so you're going to stonewall me, you're going to leave me, or end the friendship, you're going to get angry, you're going to pout because you can't handle it, like all that stuff. I'm here to tell you, people who act that way have no room in our lives. This is what I decided, okay? I'm just going to take a risk and just say what my truth is. And if that upsets you or makes you stonewall me or run off or pout, then you're not a competent adult, because when people tell you what they like or what their preferences are, we're supposed to be grateful. That's a proper adult response. Thank you for telling me how you feel. Thank you for telling me what's important to you. And even though this might be hard for me to swallow, say that someone tells me, I've never liked the way that you do this, I've never liked your cooking or whatever, like it might hurt my feelings, but it's at least a reality it's authentic. It's at least authentic. And I really value authentic communication, so I think it's important to deliver these things kindly and to be able to speak our truth and to even know what our truth really is, especially if you're just used to being a people pleaser. There's another book I'm going to read next. Again, No More Mr. Nice Guy. I've got that on to read next again and make some videos on that, because I think that people tend to either be like super grandiose and controlling or people pleasers, and it's like always trying to find that medium, that happy balance. Anyway, I hope you like this book and my kind of excerpts reading out of this book, and thank you for watching my video.